All righty. Welcome to another episode of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan. We have Merrill here as always.
What's up, Phil? What's up, Samuel? What's up, Derek? What's up, David? Thank you for joining us, guys. Appreciate you guys. We got a pretty cool gift we're going to be giving away for this one.
Yeah. So, just to jump right into it, first of all, we wanted to thank our sponsors for our podcast. We have the RA Mobile Bait. Chad is doing great things out there. And actually, he went live for the first time, I believe last weekend, where he brought croakers and shrimp to the Tiki Island boat ramp. So if you're ever looking for live bait, he should be there next Saturday, or this coming Saturday, I should say. Just go and follow his page to see any updates and find him where he's at. Also, we'd like to give a shout out to 4A Printing. Some great towels as part of the giveaways. We have our custom towels. They do a bunch of custom work there as well from towels. Oh, yeah, Merrill, you have that one too?
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome stuff right there. These are great fishing towels, and just talk to him and see what you can come up with for any of your custom printing needs. And also give a big shout out to DSKA. If you're ever looking for a place to kind of learn, interact for fishing in Galveston and also for kayaking, just kind of hop onto DSKA. And with that, let's actually just go right into today's episode where we all are talking about choosing the right guide. Our special guest is Captain Jeffrey Acosta of Acosta's Guide Service. He's been guiding for 9 years in and around the Galveston area. And I think he's a great person to kind of come in and help us explain how to choose the right guide, what questions to ask, and all the stuff that goes in behind the scenes. So without further ado, how's it going, Captain Jeff?
It's going good, man. Trying to beat the heat.
Actually, Jeffrey, I'm going to jump in real quick. Jeffrey is a really good friend of mine. Me and him share kind of the same passion as view also as fishing is a positive outlook, a positive perspective, doing the best that we can and being who we are and just being positive all the way around the fishing industry. And thank you for joining us, taking the time out of your day, Jeffrey, to join us. And I just want to thank you dearly for that, man.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. And so, going into before we go into the questions, let's kind of get everybody hyped up. So, Captain Jeff, before the show or starting, we're just kind of talking, and you're talking about one of your best experiences that you had as a guide, and I think that was a good starting point to get everybody excited about, getting a guide or hiring a guide for their fishing experience. So, why don't you tell us about one of your best experiences out there?
One of the most memorable that happened a few years ago was a trip down in East Maddie. You always hear about flounder coming out and walking on their tails, but you don't really understand till you see it. And one day we were working the shoreline, picked up some trout, waited to a certain time, moved over to the center, was over some shell and a sandy bottom, started walking out there. Once we got in position that we were able to jump out of the boat, we started approaching the area. Once we did, we were in awe and disbelief, witnessing flounder blowing up on mullet like redfish, and then walking on their tails and going back down. We literally sat there before we even made a cast, watched them for about 5-10 minutes, and just in awe. And then we commenced to start fishing and started walking, pushing forward. And the flounder that day were as aggressive as a redfish is bore. That was my first time ever to witness that. You always hear stories about schooling redfish, tons of them, or even a couple of flounders coming out of the water and walking on their tails. But to see as many as we did was amazing.
It's almost like like a dark blanket, right? That's what y'all saw. Like a big old dark blanket coming over, and you're like, what is that? Like, why is that cloud, like dark cloud moving?
And then just seeing them coming out of the water, and like I said, and just walking on their tails and then going back down, man. It was a sight to see. And we all had phones, but we didn't even think about recording this. We did catch some footage of us catching the fish, but we didn't capture that moment of watching it. And like I said, we were just in awe. I mean, as far as we can see, there were just flounders and reds just blowing up on mullet, man. But seeing those flounder coming out of the water was amazing. And that's probably the last time I've seen that many of them at one time, you know, coming out of the water. And I will never forget that, you know. There's always, even when you get on the bay, there's always something that happens every time, every outing, you know. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I've read this somewhere, or someone was just telling me about this sighting, and for you to witness it, man, it just helps you appreciate the moment at the time you're spending on the bay.
That's
Hey
awesome.
And to spend
Jeff,
that, you know, with customers is even amazing.
Jeff, we got our buddy AD on the messenger here on the messages.
Oh, what's up, AD? He's been with me on some of those special trips, you know.
Yeah, I like
mean,
seeing those pictures of y'all with those big old stringers, you know. That's pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
It is. I mean, and then just witnessing the presentation of your lures and even the tops, man, coming out. There was another instance that AD and myself were fishing a Galveston redfish tournament. Matter of fact,
Mhm.
we're in a secret location, if you will. And man, I witnessed. We were in actually AD's shallow sport, and he was working his top water, man, and I was working a swimming mullet, you know, just a gulp swimming mullet. And when he worked his top water all the way to his boat, the redfish was chasing it and jumped on the boat, and we were just like, "Wow, you see that? that guy was chasing." I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever
He probably
had
didn't.
that happen.
The redfish probably didn't want to go through all that pain with the hooks and fighting.
Yeah, he
So he
just
just
jumped in the
went in,
boat, right?
just jumped in the boat. Like,
Man,
man, just take me,
take
bro.
me,
I'm good.
take me. Yeah. And you know, me and AD talk about that all the time, you know, and I always relate these stories, and I always tell other customers about stuff, you know, because they always ask me, well, what's your preference, you know, and to me, my preference is your comfort zone, you know, that's key, that's big. But man, that was a heck of a day, and man, I got so many stories, man. Let me tell you. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
that flounder story, I'm telling you, that's one that I will never forget.
That's
Sometimes you
awesome.
forget that you're fishing, right? Like you're out there and you're just in such
You're
awe and enjoying Mother Nature and what she brings to the, brings for that day for you, and you're just there and you're just in awe and you forget you're fishing and you're just enjoying the beauty of it, and
of that moment. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you get blown away. And like I said, man,
yeah,
we were just there. Oh, we didn't even make a cast. We were just sitting there watching. We were like, man, you see this? Like, yeah, this is awesome, awesome, awesome
Yep.
moment.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And before I forget, if you guys wanted to join in, for those who are listening on this podcast format, if you wanted to join in our live conversations, just go to facebook.com/one last cast podcast. There you can find when we're going to go live, and you can actually join in, ask questions, interact with us. And yeah, this is kind of a live format as well as a podcast. So feel free to join in. Yeah. So whenever, like, especially for new people, whenever they think about hiring a guide, or somebody decides to hire a guide, I know that there's a lot of things that go on between them deciding that and then actually doing it. So what, whenever you get a call that I want to hire you, and this is for Merrill and you, Captain Jeff, um, what kind of questions are you guys asking, that way that you can make the best of the trip?
you
Well,
want to
I
start
know
off with
for
this?
me, yeah, I was gonna say. So for me, when I take an initial call, they kind of lean on me to guide them as to what type of fishing we're doing at the moment. You know, and what separates a lot of guys is there's everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses, you know, and some guides, just like anglers, are better weight fishermen than they are boat fishermen. You know, that doesn't take away from their angler experience. It's just their strengths. That's their strengths, you know. And when people call me, I always ask them, well, what's your comfort factor? Because you have to be comfortable out there, you know. And that's one thing to take in consideration when you're calling or trying to figure out what guide you want to do, because there's just different types and different styles of guides out there. A lot of great guides go out to the jetties. You got your jetty guides, man. I can't take nothing away from those guys because those guys have a different style. I couldn't personally go out to the jetties and do what they do because that's not my style of fishing, you know. And there's a lot of great great open bay guides out there that either fish with live bait or out there chasing fish and tossing lures and tops in the middle of the. And it's just, you got to figure out what you want. If you want to learn something, or you want to get out of your comfort factor, and you want to try to wake fish, or you want to stay in the boat, or you want to go after different species and go to the jetties. That's the kind of things that you need to first research, and then from there, then you kind of narrow down your guide selection, because there's a bunch of us out there, and then another thing is passion. Go to the reviews. There's a lot of great guides out there, and some have been doing it for a long, long time, and some, like myself, I've been fishing since, whoo, man, I'm gonna tell my age, but I've been fishing for a long time. And even when my dad used to tell me, hey, if you want to go fishing, we're gonna get up early in the morning, and I made sure to sleep up front where he couldn't sneak out of the front door, because of passion. I kind of inherited that passion myself, and I like to pass that on to my customers, and I believe that's what separates me from a lot of other ones. I'm just speaking for myself, because I like to share that passion, and I like to, become one-on-one with them, because we actually, not only do we take them fishing, we actually develop it, and if anybody's been with me, trust me, they'll tell you it's like a friend, and I kind of break the ice that way. But choosing the right guide is just choosing what style of fishing, because like I said, there's a bunch of different ways to fish, and there's just a bunch of different guides out there.
Yeah.
And then there's some guys that will take you out there, and I hate to say this, on a day that you shouldn't be out there, and but there are some of us that kind of reserve that, because you got to take safety in consideration, a lot of things too, so it's just,
Yeah.
reach out, and if I'm booked that day, there's a network of other guys that I like to refer people to, and I'm not afraid to. I respect where our fishing industry has come from and where it's going. You know, that respect is lost in our industry to a certain extent. But that's
How
just me
about
speaking from the
yeah?
from the boat guys. You know.
Yeah. How about you, Merrill? How would you go about this?
Oh, yeah. I was showing Garrett Washington this cup that he made me. Thank you, Garrett. I appreciate it, buddy. Um, me, you know, I'm kind of guilty of taking people out on tough weather and tough days, but I believe in kayaks you can find protection. But I mean, I'm not taking them out on during a hurricane or anything. But I like to always ask, like, what goal are you trying to accomplish before we even go on our trip? Like, an example is like, do you want to fish in the, the marsh for redfish? Do you want to go catch trout? Do you want to meat haul? Are you just trying to put one of your brothers or your friends on fish? So I kind of ask a series of questions of like, what are you trying to accomplish when you're going kayak fishing? And then I usually, if it's their first time, I always ask them, are you experienced? Sometimes they like to bring their own gear. If they do that, I always like to ask them what they're bringing, and then, so forth. But I always ask what goal they're trying to accomplish. And then I
Yeah.
try to cater around that goal, because I try to stay as versatile as possible. I think I've done, last year I did 4 gigging trips, 7 bass trips. I think I had 50-50 trout and redfish trips. And I mean, not 50-50. Like, yeah, I guess half and half, like different, they're about the same, I shouldn't say 50-50, but about the same amount of red fishing trips and trout trips, and then maybe like 3 flounder trips. Then I have one more sheephead trip. So I just try to stay as versatile as possible. Try to do what I think I can help them with, and if it's something that I can't help them with, I do recommend other guides. That's one thing. And then sometimes, most of the times, I'm booked, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry. I'll try to get better at scheduling. I think that's one of my weaknesses, is scheduling people in. But as far as that, most of the time I always recommend other guides, when I'm booked. that would cater to their goal.
Yeah, exactly. And it is all about the customer service kind of thing, kind of giving what the customer wants in a way. Um, but I think it's a little bit daunting because, especially for a beginner, whenever, or even some experienced people, whenever they go into it, there is kind of the expectation that the guide knows best, and you just hire the guide, and they'll just do whatever is best. But it should be the other way around, where you kind of tell the guide, "This is kind of what I'm trying to do," and they should be able to help you get to that goal. So, for example, um, you hire a guide and say that, I want to go after trophy trout. Well, if you go after trophy trout, they shouldn't be going chasing birds
Right.
they should be, especially during the winter, you should be going after going on a reef and tossing fat boys or whatever live bait that you
Right.
want to use for big trout. If you want to go after redfish, you're not going to be going into open water and chasing after slicks. You should be, in the marsh or doing something like that where you have a higher chance of catching redfish.
Right.
So I think and am I saying that right? Is that the
Yeah, that's pretty good.
customer?
Yeah, that's
The
nailing it right
customer
there.
should set
Yeah.
that expectation.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I
obviously,
mean,
and
yeah.
yeah,
What I was gonna say is I do get questions like that, requests. Or I get a customer say, "Look, I'm not looking for numbers. I'm looking for more quality fish." So then I'm like, "All right." So now we got to change the whole approach on things, and I always tell them, "Man, I don't know everything, and if I see them doing something wrong, I kind of like, this is what I do. It works for me, but it may not work for you because." Some of the customers bring their own rods and their actions are a little different from my rods. But yeah, no, you guys are hitting it right on the spot as far as coming with an idea of what do you want to target?
Yeah.
What's your goal of getting out of booking a trip? You
I got a
know,
question, Jeffrey. Do you ever, when they use their rod and reels, do you ever test their drag? Do you ever grab the rod and reel and just test their drag? When I say that because I know I do. I always, if they bring their own equipment, I always grab the rod and reel or ask them, you don't mind if I grab your rod and reel? I just want to check your drag. Because sometimes we'll get out there and the first fish hits it and their line's screaming and they don't even have their drag on and then they lose a
have the
fish,
drag set on.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
it's
I
the other
mean,
way around. It's cranked all the way down, and then this trout comes up with his head shaking, and boom, there goes
pops
the
off.
bait. Yeah. So I always try to test their drag and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. You know, do you do the same
No,
thing?
well, I used to. I'll be honest with you. I've gotten away from that. I don't know. It's because I've had more repeat customers
Mm.
and more experienced anglers that bring their own, their own equipment. So, and so I'm comfortable because I've already, developed a comfort factor with them. I know that they know what they're doing. So, I got away from a lot of things that I used to do that I probably should go back to do because I've seen some of them lose a lot of fish, losing jigs, if you will. I'm thinking I said, man, that fish took you down to the reef and cut you off. When you see the line getting untied or something, but no, there's a lot of tricks to the trade. It just so much. It's always it's about the experience, and learning something, and because I learn something from them all the time. Every trip I learn something new.
yeah.
So
And for me, that's why actually I like fishing with other people, new people, is because there's always something, even if something's really small and subtle, that you can pick up from watching other people and fishing with other people. And with you as guides, you fish with new people often. You just a knowledge bank for all that kind of information that you get in. Um, but let's kind of switch it up. So whenever there's a lot of people who just think that guys just go, and they have it easy. All they do is fish all day and they get paid to do it. What do you wish people would know when they hire a guide? That what kind of preparation goes into to being a guide or anything like that?
well, like for me, if I have a trip and let's just say they're not comfortable fishing lure. They don't want to fish lure. They're dead at heart, set on bait. Said okay, so for me, I have to get up extra early. Have to call around. I have to because your bait is just as important because it's part of your equipment to fishing and making a catch as everything the rest of your gear. So we typically our typical morning is starts off at 2:30 in the morning, and then we got to gas up, we got to get ice, we got to go get the bait, we got to make sure all our rods, all our gears up to par for the day, and we're really at the boat ramp an hour to an hour and a half before meeting them, you know. So there is a lot of preparation prior to their arrival, and then after the trip, we have to come back home and then we have to wash down our boat and our gear. If they're borrowing like our weight gear, I like to spray all my gear down, get as much salinity off of my gear to allow the longevity to extend the longevity of all my gear for the next customer. So even though we come back at noon or 1 o'clock, whatever the case is, we still have another 2 to 3 hours of cleanup afterwards. So a 6 hour trip is easy 10 to 11 hour day,
Yeah.
Depending on traffic too.
Yeah.
You got to love that Galveston traffic.
Oh yeah. And I know it's different for you, Merrill, because you're a kayak guy, so that's a little bit different. There are similarities, but you know.
Yeah. What did you say? You're 2:30 is usually what time you start? Yeah, mine's more like 2:45. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Hey, Merrill.
no, it's. I do wake up very, real early in the morning. I gotta. Sometimes I'll have, 3 other people with me, or, and I gotta load up all those kayaks, and then I gotta make sure I got all my equipment. Make sure everything's ready. PFDs, we got everything we need. Wind is also sometimes the wind is not in your favor, and you got to make sure you know what you're doing, especially with kayak. You can't just go launch off at a boat ramp and put them in 2-foot swells. So there's a lot of homework into it. Sometimes I have to drive to different areas and then change the spot the morning of, like, hey, look, we got to change, due to the weather kind of didn't go as expected, just try over here real quick. But those plan Bs are always set in the back of your head just in case, just from experience of being on the water all the time. They start coming natural to you. So the more time you spend on the water, the more time you're prepared. You have all these extra things that are ready for when things don't go as planned. You have a plan B to back it up. But yeah, I'm usually up early, really, really early, loading up the kayaks, getting everything ready, getting to the launch, get everything down, get everything ready for these guys just to walk on the kayaks, and not walk on, but sit in the kayaks and start our journey.
Yep.
And it usually doesn't end till late. I mean, there was times where I was doing doubles and triples, and I think I was a zombie during those times. I don't remember very much. I stopped doing triples finally, I think 2 months ago. So no more
Before the
triples.
heat.
And then no, I'm slowly leaning away from no more doubles. I just want to do one trip a day now. But it's like, I stopped advertising. I stopped putting my name out there. I stopped trying to put content out there, because usually when I do that, that leads to more book trips and stuff like that. So, sometimes it's just a little too
Yeah.
much for me, especially me getting a little older.
Yeah. And it's good that you said about wind and stuff because I always, when the people call me or book, I get booked, a month or 2 months in advance, and they're always asking me, "All right, what time are we meeting? Where are we meeting?" And I'm like,
They ask like 2
"Man,
weeks in advance. Like, dude,
yeah."
I always say, I let them know the night before.
I
That's
always say 2 to 3 days before because
oh,
everything is wind driven,
right,
weather driven,
right, right.
and that's
Mine's
gonna dictate to where our meeting point's gonna be.
Yeah, yours
And
is a lot more
I try to
frequent.
follow Merrill as much as I can till he gets on some marshes.
What they used to say, the guy in the banana boat, that used to be me. They called me the guy in the banana boat in Clear Lake. I had a banana colored kayak. It was a Tarpon 120, yeah. And
Oh,
I
I
was the
thought,
guy in the banana boat.
Hey,
But,
that's old school right
that's
there.
old school
yeah.
right there, yeah. But anyway,
I thought you were gonna say a Hobie. I was like, no, technically that's papaya, but I
yeah,
don't know.
no, man.
I don't know the color for the wilderness. This
Yeah,
was tarpon.
no, yeah, that was one of my first kayaks fishing out of
Yeah.
old Tarpon 120. It was, and then I had the 140. Man, those things were fast, dude.
Oh yeah. So actually, if you kind of go down to if you drill it down kind of to the whenever you choose a guide, how do you actually before you even get there, when should somebody decide to get a guide? I have an idea in my head when I would hire a guide, but I wanted to hear from y'all. When should somebody call you and say that, hey, I need your services?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna
Well,
start off on this one, Jeffrey. Yeah, well, me, I booked a lot of guides in our Bay complex, Galveston Bay complex, but the reason I did it was because I wanted to learn stuff. I know there are certain fishermen that were catching fish with croakers, and I wanted to learn how to fish with croakers, and I booked those guides. And then those guides that fish strictly artificials, and I booked probably more of those guides because I wanted to hone in on my artificial game.
Sorry
So
to cut you off, but I just wanted you heard it here first that Merrill is a croaker soaker. So
Hey, I'm not no ashamed, man. I'm not ashamed of it, man. I'm not ashamed of throwing live bait, man. I'm actually trying to learn more of the live bait game to help with clients that do want to learn how to do that, because there is a market for people that like to throw croakers or shrimp or live bait. And to be honest, that's not my strength. It's more of artificials, but I'm learning. I'm still learning on how to get that down. But yeah, but I mean, that's the reason why I booked guides, was because I wanted to learn certain things from those guides. What about you, Jeffrey?
well, I get a lot of people, a lot of experienced anglers that have family gatherings, and they get families that come in and they want to take them out, and they're like, "Look, man, we don't want to work too hard, so we'd rather get bait and just put us on some fish, man. We don't want to limit out, but we want, we would like to get some lines tugged,
No,
or I get people that call me and book me just so they can learn the bait,
mm,
like where to run, not so much learning spots, just learning where to safely run their boats when they're out there with their family,
yes,
because
that's
a
cool.
lot, because the bay changes
mhm.
more so than what everybody gives credit to the bay. I mean, Mother
Yeah.
Nature can be good to us, and Mother Nature can be bad to us.
The
Uh,
guts in San
so
Luis Pass are a prime example of that, dude. Those guts in San Luis Pass are always changing, especially around
always change.
hurricanes. Man, I was like, man, there's this one little gut I used to love fishing over there, and it's like, man, where'd it go? It's not there no more, you
Yeah,
know?
it's gone. It's gone.
But I do get a lot of people like Merle said, they're like, man, I want to learn more lures. I want to learn how to walk and wade, and I always my typical weight response to a lot of them is, especially when we get out there, I lay them out on the area, and I'm like, man, before you push forward, hit your three angles. And they're like, what's that? I said, in the front, to the right, and to the left. You don't get, and you got to change your retriever every so often, and then you just push forward a little bit, and you do it again. I said, eventually you're going to find either a structure that we're walking to. Either they're going to be on the front side of that structure, they're going to be on the back side of that structure, or approach a flat and then go into that gut. So we're going to catch them either on top of that flat, or they're going to be in that gut, or they're going to be on the back side of that gut. I mean, there's just so much to
Yeah,
approaching certain areas that it's amazing. And
yeah.
I get a lot of guys that fish corkies that want to come fish croaker because they've heard that it's almost the same thing, and I'm like, yes, it is.
That thump, man.
I,
That
I mean,
it's just that thump,
I
dude. Is that way they thump it, like thump.
it's
That fat
man,
boy. Yeah.
it
Go ahead,
is
I'm
a
sorry.
drug.
Got
I
excited.
get people that also are like Merrill, man. They want to figure out the bait game so they can change their presentations of the lures, because you can relate it to the same thing, because there's a reason why they're hitting this, not just because it's croaking or of the nature, but of the presence, because sometimes it takes skill to fish whatever you're fishing with, and you got to have confidence in it. That's what I tell everybody. They're like, well, what do you prefer? I said, me personally, I prefer to throw lures. Why? Because you can just get out there and you ain't got to worry about getting in line. I can sleep in like Merrill to 2:45, sleep in late a little bit and get up later.
And boy, that's coming with
go.
relax, boy. That boy comes in relaxed after 2:45.
Yeah, but I also, man, sometimes I go out there with bait, man. I get lazy and I'm like, man, I'll take one of my family members. I'm like, come on, man, you want to go fish? Let me show you how we do it, and different depths, different style of guides fish different, because they're fishing different areas, and their approach to those areas is key, because I've had customers, I always get this, man, I always get customers ask me, man, are you afraid of somebody come back to your spot and fish it out? I said, nah, that's just the nature of the beast, I mean, it is what it is. But what they don't know is, if they come back to that area, all they're going to know is where I showed them. Every day changes. So your starts changing, your wind changes, movement changes, the fish push off, they move over here, they move over there. So you got to learn, you got to read the water, and you got to learn how to position yourself to be successful. And that's a whole other game. And that just comes from experience. Because I personally have been fishing for many years, like I said it before, and I used to go with my dad a lot, and trust me, I've come back with 1 or 2 fish a lot before I started learning the bay. And it's just putting your time in and going out there. Even before I became a guide, a lot of people didn't know, but man, I've been fishing for years, and I remember I used to fish in LaPorte area a lot, and I remember those piers used to come all the way out before they went out there and dredge. And then my father had a wild idea. Hey, man, they're saying they're catching them in Galveston, that's Bay. We had no idea what we were doing. And we hit the old intercoastal, every reef down that old intercoastal at least 4 times. And of course, because I was with my dad, guess who used to get out in the boat and push it? Me. My dad said, come on, man, get us off of this reef.
That young back, boy. Put that young back in
these. And that's what it takes, is just going out there and just, if you really want to learn, it's just putting your time in, putting your time in.
Yep. Yeah. And kind of answer the question. So one of the reasons why I would hire a guide, I think that I have enough, at least background knowledge, for me to go at least somewhere on the Texas coast and kind of do well. But like, for example, this is actually what Merrill did. He went to Florida. And he did an offshore trip. Yeah, exactly. I'm super jealous. And he got that sailfish, which we'll talk about another day. But going in and saying that Florida is a completely different fishery. I'm only here for a few days, and I need to kind of cut that curve, because if I go out, I may be skunked for the 2 days that I'm here.
Yeah,
because I have to learn it. So cutting into the learning curve, going to a new location and saying, that's where I would get a guide. I'm in a new location. I want to learn the area, and kind of get a good base knowledge from the person that fishes there all the time. Yeah. So that would be like one reason why I'd get a guide. Other one, again, like you were saying earlier, sometimes I'm just lazy. I
just want to catch some.
Just want to catch something. I'm not going to do anything, and this guy knows what they're at.
Yeah.
Yep. So one of the questions that people always that come up whenever they as a guide, it's always like the live bait versus the artificial. And I know that we both you and Merrill, you prefer the artificial game, but when should you just is there a time whenever you just go with live bait? Is it when they request it, or?
Well, Jonathan, I think these questions were going to be this tough, man. I thought you should have gave us these questions before. No, I'm just kidding.
It wasn't in the memo. It was
You didn't email me that question there, Jonathan. Golly. For me, most of the times I fish out of a kayak. I, I'm gonna say 100% of the time now I'm fishing on a kayak, but so it's not like hey, let's switch to bait unless I have it. It's usually we start off. I actually don't even think I had a live bait trip this year or last year. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember. I might have had one. But anyways, so when you're on a boat, I think you're a lot more versatile if you want to switch up like that because you have a big old live well, stuff like that, and you can be like, hey, look, just in case things don't work out, we got a plan B. We could throw bait, versus us, it's like, hey, once you launch and we get to a spot, it might be a mile from here, 3 miles, 4 miles. And yes, I do take people out that far, 3-4 miles out before we start catching fish. So we can't come back and then go try to get bait because then the day's gone, So, but is there a time for me? It's either we come in with it or we don't, and that's part of the planning. That's part of the hard work. That's part of the grind. Is what do we do when things are not going as planned? Right? Do we just go back, or do we keep hunting for them? And I'm more the type of person, we grind for them, we hunt for them, we don't stop hunting until we find that feeding school. Some of the guys that are on here, they can attest for it. We go out there and we grind it out until we catch them.
How about you, Captain
eventually
Jeff?
they will eat.
Yes.
Well, for me, I mean, honestly, boat trips, you can fish bait year round. It's more of a comfort factor or a preference. And you can also fish lure fishing year round. You have to have confidence in whatever it is you're tossing. But if you want to become more agile in lure fishing, then don't get discouraged. Go out there and grind and grind and grind until you figure out the bite. And I just recently had a trip this past Saturday that they didn't want bait. All they wanted was plastic and lures. And man, let me tell you, man, there were some grinders. There were some grinders, and there was a bunch of and right off the bat, man, they were asking me what color, because they do rely on us as far as what colors to look for, because there's always everybody has their own opinion about clarity of water or the darkness of water, or if the sun is up or the moon or the tide or there's just so many avenues to consider. So I don't know about Merrill, but when they come to me and they want to toss lures, they're like, all right, man, give me 4 colors, Captain. I need, give me 4 to-go colors.
I was going to ask you the same question, Jeffrey. Give us some juice. Give us some juice for this podcast. What is Jeffrey?
So right now.
Okay, come on.
So summertime. This is my summertime colors. My number 1 is watermelon with a chartreuse tail.
Oh, that's a good one.
Watermelon is hard to beat to me. Number two is it's like a white ice or a bone soft plastic.
Oh.
Yeah. Number 3, you gotta have that morning glory, man. You gotta keep one morning glory. Whatever type of lure you're throwing, you gotta have that morning glory. And number 4, me and Captain John Q's favorite, that red shad. Those are my 4 that I always have. And I at 5, a chartreuse, or a lime truce.
I would like to add the purple, man. That purple demon, but not the little John, but that color. That purple with the blue flake in it, like that one's also a good one for me. But man, those are all the colors I like throwing, dude. All those. I know a lot of people have success with that chartreuse flash, and I've had successful days for them, but I don't think I'd be on my top 5. But I know a lot of people that throw chartreuse flash. I mean, that's all they throw is chartreuse flash, especially over reef, man. Over reef, man, they love those things.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that. Man, I used to throw. I got into trends where I found one color and one lure in particular, and that's all I threw for the whole year. I went through a whole year of throwing. You ever heard of the Hackberry Hustler?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir.
That was my favorite lure. It was
Was
with
it one or two?
chartreuse. I only threw one color. I threw the pearl belly with the lime chartreuse top or
Ooh.
back.
What was it?
Remember how you
The
said
trout killer 1 or 2? Was it the single tail or the double tail?
No.
the
This is
single
the
tail
Hackberry
with the
Hustler.
ridges. It's a Hackberry Hustler. It's got a
Yeah.
single tail and it's
Oh,
got the ingredients on the and the vibration that it put out, man. I used to love it, and I had lots of success
they
with
still
it.
sell those?
You know.
No.
Yes.
They
They
do?
They
don't?
do?
I thought they
I
did.
haven't seen TTF in the stores recently, but then again, I haven't been in the stores recently, so maybe that's why.
But
Hackberry
Hackberry
Hustler.
Hustler was, man, I
That's
used to throw
right. I
that.
remember that, dude. Those are
Dude, that was my go-to lure, man. I'm telling you, I was sold on it, man.
mine was it was a hard plastic, the Catch 2000. I used to fish that over there at Rollover Pass. I'd fish that on the back bay side, and I'd just work the current with it. Man, dude, I threw that for I can't believe how long I threw that Catch 2000 bait. Man, I love that bait. But anyway, it's been a while
But
since I've thrown it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Actually,
but
I was gonna
no, what
say
I was
that
gonna say is,
the Hackberry Hustler that just brought back so many memories because um before the website went down, they used to have a website and actually one of the things they did is if you sent in like 100 bags of used bags of any TTF plastic, they'd send you a bulk bag of bait of one single bait. And I
Wow.
had everything. I did it twice, and both times I did the Hackberry Hustler and Morning Glory.
Oh,
And I would just have these 2 bags of just Morning Glory that I think it lasted me until about 4 years ago. Um,
oh
but
wow.
yeah, they gave you a lot of baits. And it kind of also helped that I got a discount working at Academy, and I was just
you know what?
buying these
You know where I
baits.
used to like to throw that color at? At Frozen Point.
Frozen Point, yeah.
Morning Glory. Yeah, Morning Glory. I used to love throwing Morning Glory at Frozen Point, man. That was my color there. I don't know.
Well, that Hackberry Hustler that I was telling you about with that chartreuse backing and the pearl belly, I threw that one in from East Bay all the way to Trinity, all the way up Burnett Bay, man. And I was very, very
Ooh.
successful with that one color. With that, man. I just had confidence in it, you know? It
Not
just
too
seemed
many
like
people. Yeah, not too many people like that. Once they get past that bridge, I don't see a lot of people that not as much as all over Galveston, but very few people. There's very few people, boaters that go back past that bridge and venture off into Burnett Bay and all those other spots.
yeah,
I think that's my
the air.
huh? I'm sorry, what?
I said there's a lot of areas that a lot of people don't
Yeah.
fish,
Oh yeah.
Preference wise. That's a whole
Do you
different
eat the fish?
category there.
Do you eat the fish back
What's
there,
that?
Jeffrey? You eat the fish back there?
Man, let me tell you something. If you know anything about fish and migrating, and if you know anything about water,
Uh-huh.
and when the tide goes low, you cannot contain water like you cannot contain fish. Fish,
All right.
let me just put it in simple terms. Fish are like women. They're all over the place, man. You know, we just have to cater to them, right? Sometimes they're
I'm
down in
just
West
teasing you.
Bay, sometimes they're in East Bay, sometimes they're up north, you
Yeah, I'm
know.
just teasing you. We used to call that place
I know.
Benzene Channel. Oh, Benzene Channel. You eating the fish out of there? Yeah, but
Man, let
I'm
me
just
tell you,
teasing.
man, I used to spear
Man,
fish out there. That's a different
man, now
category
I'm gonna
there.
have to make this a not safe for work episode talking about fish like women.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
God.
Oh, it's
No, but
okay, man. We don't have no censorship here. At least not yet.
um
no,
Facebook
so
might come in and send us a message or something. Yeah, well, cheers.
so whenever for being a guide, you know, it takes kind of a special person to be a guide. At least I think so. So, and this is to both of y'all again. You know, what does being a guide mean to you? You know, or why did you become a guide in the first place?
I got tired of taking people out for free. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. I'm just full of jokes
oh
today.
my
Go ahead. I'll let
gosh.
you go first, Jeffrey.
Man, you know, like I said earlier, I've been fishing for a long time back when we lived in Corpus, you know, so fishing was kind of a habit that I inherited from my father and my family members. And when we moved to Houston area, it came with me, and, you know, And I've always been one to be passionate about it, and I was literally got to the point where I was out there every weekend as much as anybody. So I got approached one time because I used to, network with a bunch of other ones. I'm not gonna say no names, but I used to call them up. Hey man, are you catching any fish? No. Hey, come over here. Bring your people over here. I'm gonna move out. You know, and but for me, why seriously became a guide is man, I just wanted to share my passion. And I just seemed like my very first guide trip, man, it was just such a great feeling and such a great trip, that dealing with this captain that he shared, that moment in time with me, and he was excited. And I'm always excited, but we were just as excited. I wanted to share that with other people as well, And when people come fishing with me, that they'll tell you, man, I'm the biggest cheerleader, I'm just passionate. I've been told by little Ken, you're so passionate. Yes, I am. When I lose that passion, it's when I will just stop guiding. I'll retire, and go fishing with Merriel. But that's why I became a guide. I wanted to share my passion. And I don't know everything. I'll be the first one to admit that. And I do learn from customers. I know this one. This is going to sound weird, but I fish with this one customer, man, that when he casts his lure out, he doesn't twitch his bait. I don't know if you ever seen this. He'll literally lay his rod down and do a left and right action and retrieve and catch fish all the time. Blows me away. To this day, it still blows me away. I'm like, man, how is this guy catching fish? He's doing everything we're not supposed to be doing, But you learn different techniques. You learn different ways of retrieving. Matter of fact, this past weekend, like I said, I had an all lure trip, and you know how you twitch the lures. I was watching these guys, and they would just jerk it, and then come back down and jerk it, and just jerk it, and they were getting hits, and it just blows me away because it's just things that we as professional anglers know we're not supposed to do that, and I appreciate that. It's kind of like me sharing my passion with them. They're sharing what they know and what they've learned and what they've been raised to fish, and sharing it with me. So that keeps me going on a daily basis, especially guiding. And the heat, you gotta love the heat. I love the heat.
Drink lots of water.
Drink lots of water, man.
Yeah. For me, it was some of you guys have been following me for a lot of years, so you kind of already know my path. But I was just taking a lot of people out, man, and showing them, same thing as Jeffrey, showing them my passion, and everybody was like, man, Merriel, people will pay for this. Like, you give way too much, information out. Like, you need to become a guide. And I just kind of like, man, no, that's not for me, man. I'm not, trying to charge people. And then the more people I started taking, like, it was like, the more they kept telling me, man, you need to get your license. You need to become a guide. You need to do this. And then, and so I was like, man, maybe I should, and then I did. And so, that's what made me, and then, the passion part too, man. To me, it's like when I see these optimal moments where there's like a whole bunch of fish, I always put the clients right there first. Look, this is what you want to do. I get them in a position. We're all going to hook up at the same time. Everybody get right here, kind of set them in position. And I let those guys fish first. Sometimes I'm in front of them fanning out just to see if I can get a read on it. When I get a read on it, I'll stop and I'll put the customers there first. My idea of as a guide is I want you guys to catch fish, not me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just like fishing with a buddy. Like, my no offense to anybody else, or I'm not bashing anybody, but for me personally, I want the customers to catch fish over me. And right. When I see optimal moments, I'm like, dude, this is it. Like, this is the spot. This is it. We're here, And so for me, it's watching other people catch fish. That's what drives me. That's what gets me going. Seeing the smile on their face, seeing how happy they are. And I'm going to be honest, people fishing artificials and catching fish, there's a difference in when somebody's fishing bait and catching fish. And a meat haul, because we're there catching a whole bunch of fish on a meat haul. Even when we're catching fish a lot, but when you're there and you're searching and you're hunting and you're hunting these fish down, like, yeah, this is not just, hey, let's go to this reef and then hopefully we catch them, we'll throw some bait over it. No, we're actually down there, we're zoning in, we're targeting these fish and we're hunting them down. And to me, that's a lot of fun for me. Like, that's my candy, is artificial hunting down fish. That really, the appreciation, I can't even explain. Some of you guys book me that are on here, and you know how excited I get. I smile from ear to ear, especially when we have good times.
Yeah, actually, that would be the only reason why I would ever become a guide. I've toyed with the idea, but the problem is I get so nervous because I definitely want to make sure every trip is great. And I'm never going to become a guide. So, I mean, hats off to you guys. Y'all can have that. But the feeling that you just described is something that I've experienced as well. Taking my dad out, taking my wife out a couple of times, and just introducing them to the thrill and passion that we've all experienced. One of the best stories that I have is basically, I took my dad out to the surf. He wanted to fish the surf because he saw how, the previous few days I was out there, it was great. I took him out there. I was going to give him croaker to give him every best possible chance to catch fish. Got out there at 5 o'clock. It was still dark. We had a croaker out, and the surf was higher. It wasn't flat anymore. I know the color was still nice and green, so we just went to one of the rock jetties off of Galveston. And I told him, I hooked it up for him, let him toss it out there, and I shined my light out, and I immediately saw trout just busting up in the waves. And I was like, just toss out right there. You'll get, you're gonna get a fish. He tossed it out, and I was hooking up my own croaker, and immediately he was on, like immediate, like right there. And I was telling him, bring it in, bring it in.
I thought you told me the trip that we had was your all-time favorite.
Oh no. But that the fish that he had on was pulling drag, and I thought it was a redfish, and it turned out to be his biggest trout that he ever caught. A 6.5 pounder. Almost 7.
That is good. Was that 28, 27?
It was a 27.
27?
Solid.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were playing on wading, so I didn't actually have a net with me. I only had my little wade net.
Oh my god.
But he was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so big." That's the biggest trout that he's seen. And I, for that, I went down and almost got swept away to pick up that trout out of the water. But
you didn't want him to lose it.
Yeah, and and it was still dark. Like we had still, there's no light out. And the moment that got me was whenever I netted it and I brought it up, and my headlight was shining in his face, and he was so happy that I'm sure that if we did not catch any more fish that day, he would have been happy either way, because he caught his first cast that right when he hit the water, he caught that giant trout.
The whole day. I love those shit. Like when you first get there, the first cast and they hook, because the rest of the day is good. Like they're smiling ear to ear. I mean, there's nothing else they can have.
Your job.
Yeah, sometimes I say, okay, we're done, let's head back.
Yeah.
But just teasing.
No, I tell you another thing is, whenever you're describing to them that, it's hard to describe a thump, right? It's hard to describe. And I always tell them, I say, man, when you toss it out there, these trout are thumping it. They're like, what do you mean? Man, it's just undescribable. But when you feel it, when you feel that thump, you're going to know. I said, man, and recently I just had a trip like that, and I was explaining to these guys, never wade fish in their life, right? They had confidence in me. I was like, man, just follow my lead. We're going to have a great time. And I was telling them, move over here, and then y'all go ahead and get out, and I'm going to come behind you, and, and we're going to scatter and stuff. And then I hooked up, and I was like, all right, y'all move over here, but come around me, And I explained to them as they're coming around why I don't want them to come straight at me, because I don't want them to walk through the fish. And when they get there, I was like, all right, man, remember that thump that I was telling you about? They're like, yeah. They were all excited. I said, all right, toss it out there, man. Start twitching and retrieve, and you're going to feel that thump, man. And then both of them at the same time. Oh, my gosh, I felt it. I'm like, man, set the hook and reel it in the fish.
Yeah.
But they were just
keep that line tight, sucker.
But it was just, it's overwhelming by them feeling that thump, and they were surprised. They were, you know, and I told them, I said, you see, it's indescribable. But once you get it one time,
Oh,
you're
they're
hooked
hooked,
forever.
dude. Yeah,
Just
that
like
man.
tossing corkies, man. When you toss that, oh my gosh, that's another story. We need to do another one.
On
Corky
Corky's?
fishing.
Oh man.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. You know.
Mm.
Yep.
But
Um,
that's, you know, there's a lot of reasons on fish or choosing guides, and you
Of,
know, you got to do your research. Everybody do
yeah,
your research before you book anybody. You know,
right.
read reviews. You know, unfortunately, in some occasions, you know, but there's a plus on other occasions. Social media is great. You know, there's pros and cons and everything. But if somebody does something wrong, I guarantee you it's going to be on social media. Or if
yep.
they had a great time, you know. So
Yeah.
and then call. You know, sometimes you can tell a person over over the phone on how they're going to treat you that day. You know, like I called Merle the other day, man. He was cussing up a storm, telling me,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
just kidding.
Foul mouth
I'm just
pirate.
kidding. Yeah.
Got foul
No,
mouth
but
pirate.
you just your conversation over the phone can tell you a lot about a person, you know.
Hmm.
Right.
So,
Yep.
man, just, do your reviews and contact everybody,
Yeah.
or reach out to, limit your calls to guys to 4. Pick 4 and call each one, you know. And there are a
That's
lot of
good
top
advice,
guides out
Jeffrey.
there, you know.
That's it.
A
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
good
good
advice.
guys out there. Hey,
Well, the one thing, the
before,
one. Go ahead.
what I was gonna say is before we move forward, man, we got to give some of those old guys lots of credit, man. Like your Mr. West,
Hmm.
Mickey Eastman, man. You got to give all these guys their props, man. The Hillman, out there, Glenn Stevenson out of West Bay. I mean, there's so many of these older great guys, man. Your Ralph Frazier's, your Bobby Elliott's. So much knowledge is out there, and these guys are still guiding today.
Right.
If you guys ever get an opportunity to fish with these guys, Mike Williams, man, one of the all-time greatest guys. I mean, if you have an opportunity to book a trip with these guys, you need to book a trip because
Yeah.
there's so much things that they can teach you
Hmm.
and pass information down, man. I'm telling you. And then you got the next generation. You got your Greg Francis, your Captain Jason out of Laporte. I mean, they're just a lot of great guides out there. But if you have an opportunity to fish with some of these older salts, I'm telling you, do it. Do it. You would not regret it.
That's a
And
very
then
good point.
I'm at the bottom. I'm at the
Yeah.
bottom. I'm
But
still
no,
I'm in the ninth
Jeffrey, you bring a
one.
very good point. Is learning, like you learn from your father, and then some of these older people, like learning, being able to absorb knowledge and listen, and and absorb some knowledge in. And sometimes you got a good fishing game, but you're missing that piece, right? And then you go with this guide, or you listen to like this podcast, and we mentioned something. You're like, oh man, I probably need to try that. Maybe that's the piece that I'm missing. And you go out there and you try it. But taking advice and listening and absorbing, like you learn from your father, I've learned from my father, and growing. Like always grow. Don't ever be content, because I to this day I still feel like I don't know it all, and I still need to progress. I still have holes, and I think that that'll never go away for me.
Yeah. I think something is wrong if you ever feel like you got it all
Right.
for
Right,
fishing.
right.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah.
We didn't get to
For
answer any questions. Sorry, guys.
no,
There
actually,
was
if
Well,
you
there
funny
was a
comments today, man. Everybody's being
no,
funny
no,
today.
I think we
Uh,
still have time for some questions. So if you guys have questions, feel
oh,
free to
okay,
ask
cool.
them, and we'll get to them. And actually, we'll just go right into it. I have a couple questions that I've kind of saved. Um, so, Aaron from 4A Printing, thanks for being on here. What do you, as a guide, recommend to bring that you do not supply?
I supply
uh,
everything.
for me for me as a boat trip. We supply typically all the guides supply all the gear needed for that day. Customers they dress for the day. They bring their snacks, their drinks, and then a cooler to take home the day's catch. Lace, and cameras to take pictures or their phone. Everybody has phones, so bring your phone. Most important, dress for the day and bring your drinks and snacks. Now we're wade fishing. That's a whole different line of things for the customers to bring. Typically, on my weight trips, the customers bring their rod and reel, and I supply the wading gear. Some of them have their own that they prefer to fish with, which is perfect fine. But that's typically what I supply, and I always have 2 coolers on board, so I can make sure I have enough for drinks and snacks,
What
because it's
kind of
important to
drinks,
stay
Jeffrey?
hydrated.
What kind
Water.
of drinks you got?
Well,
I was
well,
about
I
to say,
supply water, and sometimes I do have Gatorade there,
oh, okay. No, okay.
and
It's more of
occasionally I do bring deer snack sticks that my father-in-law
oh,
was so graciously given to me, because he made from some of the deer that I killed. You
mm.
notice I said deer that I killed,
Yeah, yeah. I saw that. I heard
No,
that.
but
I
most of us have, the what to brings or what not to brings on our websites, So that is a great question, because we get that question quite often.
Man, you're making me sound
What and
unprofessional. Like
don't.
none of that. No, I don't have a website. I don't have anything. But like, wow, a website sounds nice. No, I don't provide a website. No. But I usually have Uncrustables, waters with me. I usually have a little bit of snacks with me. I try to provide everything. I try to make people just show up, just show up.
Just
That's
show
kind of
up.
what I like. And then sometimes we'll go eat afterwards. Mostly the last couple trips we've been eating burgers afterwards. Kind of a thing we do. We'll go fish, eat some burgers afterwards. Sometimes they drink some beers, and they usually drink off the water because we're on a kayak. Can't be doing that on a kayak. Get any issues out there. But yeah, I usually bring Uncrustables, like the grape and strawberry ones. I usually have those on deck with me, so I like tossing those out. Those are pretty good little snack on the water.
and,
Um,
and and actually, that kind of brings up a different previous question about the gear that you bring. Do you recommend them bringing their own gear, or should you just rely on the gear that you have?
I recommend them. I'm recently because it can be very expensive for them to at least bring their own rod and reel. But usually I have a backup. I always have a handful of backup rod and reels for each person, just in case if they bring something that's like, dude, we're not fishing with that 7-foot heavy duty rod and big old 8,000 watt reel. That's not the kind of fishing we're doing. So
Yeah, and me too. I provide. I am sponsored by Lose Reels, so my customers do use Lose Reels on Laguna rods. You know, so that's even when on our weight trips. I always bring extra gear just in case, because that one guy that went fishing with Merrill that got bad backlash. So so just in case that happens, I have
yeah,
backup for him. And just all I ask is please don't dunk my reel. But we typically do bring and supply everything. Uh, Weight trips is a little different for certain guides, but that's a great question. Like I said, it gets asked a lot. I seen another question there too. There was a few other questions that were asked. Know
Yeah,
how to
one
scroll
of the
up.
questions I see here is who besides Merrill is a good kayak guide in Galveston or Freeport?
Clint Barkey is probably way up there. I would suggest also Jared Easley. Man, that dude. Man, I've been loving his videos lately. Man, where he gets the redfish way back there, and
Yes.
those are two of the guides that if I missed some of you guys, I'm sorry, I apologize. But those are the two first ones that pop up in my mind is Clint Barkey and Jared Easley.
And I also have a question. What are your thoughts on bananas?
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that. I'll tell you about a trip. We were talking about unforgettable trips. I had this trip. Customer called me, booked me. We went on his boat, right? So I was excited. We get out there. They wanted to fish with shrimp because they're not very agile, and plus more business trip than a fishing trip. At any rate, we go out to the spot, and I'm making it. I made 2 drifts, and we've only caught like 3 fish, and I'm like, man, what is going on? I know they're here. I don't understand why they ain't biting. as I was pulling off my drift and going around, one of the customers told another guy, "Hey man, why don't you reach in there and get me a banana?" And I just stopped. And I was like, "Did you just say banana?" "Oh yeah, Captain. Matter of fact, we got plenty. We got like 16 of them in there." And I just turned around and I said, "Do you know that's a bad omen?" He goes, "No way." I said, "Man, I'm serious. I mean, that's just, superstitious, but it is said to be a bad omen." And then I continued drifting around. He Googled it. He Googled it and said, "Oh man, he's not lying. It's all over the internet. Take me back immediately." So we left the spot, went back to the boat ramp. They unloaded the bananas. And matter of fact, they were trying to get, their own bait. They pulled out the overflow and lost a whole quart of shrimp. I didn't even mention that. So they put it back. So we had to go get some more bait anyway. Got some more bait, came back, limited out in 1 hour. So that's my story. I mean, you can take it for what it's worth, but that's really what happened. So to this day, that guy, when he comes with me, he's known as the banana guy. So
I'm surprised.
That's the only banana is allowed on my boat is you.
Surprised y'all with that many bananas on your boat. I'm surprised you guys survived, man.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Like, how many bananas again?
16. He told me he counted them all. 16 bananas and like 18 oranges. They're probably watching. They know I'm talking about them. But they're not gonna comment because then they're gonna give up their name, What does that say? Is beer or liquor okay to bring? Only with Merriel.
Yeah, you needed to deal with me. You'd be liquored up to deal with me. No, just kidding. Now, yeah, I'm not gonna answer that question. I'm just kidding.
There's some more questions there.
It's just a bunch of comments of people talking during our live stream. Yeah, just feel free to continue asking questions. We'll definitely try to get to them as even after the episode is over. But I think this is kind of a good area to kind of stop off at. So, Captain Jeff, if anybody wanted to book you, how would they go about doing that?
Man, you can reach me out through Facebook or through Jeffrey Acosta or Acosta's Guide Service. Or there's also another page, Bending Rods. You can reach me through that. Or you can go to my website at www.acostasguideservice.com. Crooked letter R, hunchback. Just kidding. Or they can call me at 832-887-8453.
That's funny.
I'm
do you do Matagorda, Jeff?
Easy. I do Matagorda. I do go Matagorda.
Awesome.
But that's more seasonal. I think this year I'm gonna stay away from Matagorda just because of the recent freeze and how hard they got hit over there. I'm gonna respect all those guides over there and
that is awesome. That's pretty cool.
Make a trip over there.
That's really cool that you're doing that, man. That's so Jeffrey won't take you to Matty. I will. No, I'm just kidding.
No, man. I mean,
I'm teasing,
there's a lot of guys that fish that area year round, and that's how they make their living. So, out of respect for them, I will not go there this winter. As much as I hate not to go over there because I love Matagorda, I won't do it. Not this year. I'll as much as, like I said, I might do more hunting this winter than fishing, but that's okay.
That's a beautiful dog you got there.
Oh, thank you. That's my baby girl.
Yeah. What's her name?
Alrighty. Yeah.
Luna.
What's her name?
Yeah, Luna.
Oh, awesome.
She said hi.
Hey, Luna.
Alrighty. So thanks again, Captain Jeff, for hopping on and talking to us about guides and what should we expect. And thank you again, Merriel. You're always here, but your insights are greatly appreciated. That'll be it today for the One Last Cast podcast. Again, if you guys wanted to join up on and talk to us live during our episodes, just go to facebook.com/One Last Cast podcast. And you can find when we're going to go live and just join up and talk to us. And definitely be sure to, for those of you listening on podcasts, give us a like or thumbs up, send us a message or even a review, see how we're doing, what can improve. There's always room for us to do that. And, we love to hear from y'all. And for those participating today on the podcast, Merrill, why don't you show what's going on with that?
I am not sponsored by these guys, but I want it I think on DSKA. So I'm not going to use it. So we're just going to give it away. So it's a pretty solid reel though. So yeah.
So for everybody who's commented on the podcast today, during the live stream, you'll be entered to win that Daiwa Coastal. And of course the 4A printing custom One Last Cast podcast towel. Again, thank you all guys for joining, and y'all guys have a great one.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you guys. Love you. Bye.